Hello everyone, my name is Kurazar, and welcome back to the Vintage Story Guide. We are back in the world after quite a momentous discovery and adventure down to the south, where we found some green sand that I said I had intentions to put to use building our house. That is the plan today. But first, you will see, likely, that it is several days after we last met, and that's because I have been quite busy. First, there was a temporal storm that occurred maybe half a day after we last spoke, and we got something really cool from that. We got our very first temporal gear. We'll go over what to do with that in just a second. After the storm was over, I got to work. I went out and I gathered materials. And I gathered. And I gathered. And I gathered. And I gathered some more. Along the way, I made a new friend. Everybody, meet Bounder. No word yet on whether she's related to the Bounder we met in the last episode. And then, I made an exciting discovery that will be very useful to us later. And I gathered a bit more. And then some more. And wouldn't you know it, more gathering. And again, and again, and again. And finally, some more gathering. And at night, I spent my time panning through bony soil and doing some clay making, partly because I ran out of space to store our gathered materials. And that's where things leave us today. You may also notice that I'm not wearing my bear armor that I do enjoy so much. It is very snazzy. And that's because I discovered that the bear armor repair recipe is, shall we say, not very favorable. Let's go take a look at this repair recipe, and you'll see why. So we're going to start with, I think, the helmet here. Put these together. This will fully repair the helmet. Now, the helmet is also only down about 33 durability. But let's say we wanted to repair, I don't know, the body armor. We could use an entire black bear pelt with the head, and we would get 30 durability. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds just like pure disrespect right there, given the fact that we can make an entire new set of bear armor with the pelt and a few bones and rope. So, I think this is pretty terrible. So what we're going to do is we're going to hang on to the bear pelt, and if we ever need more armor, we'll just make some more. Although I am pretty tempted to just tweak that recipe so that we can use, like, bones. I wasn't able to find where to change the value of repair in terms of, like, using a whole pelt to repair the full durability. But I did find where I could change the recipe to just use something else. And we have, where are they? Plenty of bones here, plenty of bones here, and upstairs we have the results of my nightly panning. And boy howdy, I had to bust out 2 of these to store it all. And I also found some rice seeds in a vessel in a ruin over yonder that I had missed previously. One of the 2 that I said had nothing in them did have a seed vessel with rice in it. Now, rice is a warm crop. It is cold resistant only down to 8 degrees Celsius. So we only want to plant this maybe in the heat of summer. Spoils of our panning. 3, 2, 1. Wow, look at that. We got 4 more lore books. We got some copper chain and some more copper lamellae. 24 more flint arrowheads, 4 candles, a nugget of silver, some copper arrowheads, boatloads of bones, and this is why I think the bear recipe could do to use bones. We got some bony rib cages, which I like to use for decoration in, like, ossuaries and such. We got 12 rusty gears, 25 flax fibers, 4 emeralds, 4 copper spearheads, and 4 nuggets of gold. That's all pretty good. That will help jumpstart our progress into the vintage story economy later. But today is all about building our house. So, after a bit of a snack, I say, let's get to it. Okay, so to get started here, the first thing I want to do is I want to change some of the form of our house. We're going to start by tearing down this part of the structure right here and replacing it with a new kind of material we haven't touched on yet. And there we have the start of our teardown here. And one thing I realized while I was sort of looking into how medieval houses were designed, I do think that popping out the supports here was actually the wrong move to make. And so I'm going to pull them in by a block so that we can then overhang on the second floor without having these in the way to walk around, because the sort of walkable area up here is going to be a bit cramped, and having these here would be a problem. So I'm going to pop this guy right back in here and very slowly tear this guy out and put a column in here as well. And there we go. And we'll get to the other columns as they come up, but this is a good start for now. Now, for the new material I mentioned, we have here a vessel full of pine logs. Now, I do think that for the primary house portion, I want to use oak logs for the framing, but I thought it would be nice to have a different color out front for this. Maybe some kind of addition to the house. And while we could just build with logs here, like so, I believe I said a material that we haven't used yet. So we're going to pick all these up, and we're going to make a new material known as quarter logs. Making quarter logs is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is open your inventory, put your axe top and center, and then put down 6 logs underneath like this, and you'll get these fancy quarter logs, like so. Let's get to building with them. Just like regular logs, quarter logs can be placed either vertically or horizontally based on their orientation. And quarter logs also have another special kind of use, which is that they can be turned into very nice corner pieces. If you put them in your inventory like so, around your axe, you can make corner pieces that have a little bit of texture on the outside, like so. They stick out just a little bit to make things a little bit less regular, which I think is very nice. And there we go. What's that, you say? I put the windows at the wrong height? Well, funny thing about that, you see, I was kind of thinking that we should maybe sink this part of the house just one block down a little bit, and that way we can have a window right here, here, and here. We'll just move this guy down a little bit too. So bam, bam, and, well, excuse me, sir. Bam. There we go. That does mean we're going to need to move our little corner bookshelf here, pick up our bear pelt, put it back down over here, and our bed, and scoot that somewhere else. Basically anywhere else. Right there. Perfect. Now, naturally, that means we have to get rid of this floor right here, so we're going to dig into it. This should be right above our pigsty, which means that retrieving these blocks is going to be danger close. We made it. Now I want to have a somewhat fancy floor in here, but in order to do that, I want to use some vertically placed logs, which means we need a surface to place them against. So temporarily, I'm going to grab an oil lamp. We're going to plop this down in here for the pigs to make sure they don't die. And then I'm going to just fill in this whole layer with some of this very fine dirt that we'll remove later. And what kind of floor are we going to use here, Kurazar, I hear you asking? Well, first I'm thinking we're going to want to have some slabs here across maybe here to have a bit of a step down, or maybe even we'll put like a full block here and here and have just a 3-block wide little step down. Something like this, and this, and this. And I think we can probably nab 2 more from this, because we're not going to need all of these slabs up here in the future. And there we have it. Now, as for the floor, I was thinking we could put maybe a full log in each of these 4 locations here, and then surround them with the quarter logs set straight up and down. But rather than using pine, since we'll already have a lot of this sort of brilliant red color, I was thinking we could use some oak. Since we have a lot of that, and it will bring some much needed contrast into the room. So we can do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then use the rest of these to fill in the rest of this floor area here, like so. And that is a pretty noisy floor, so why not cover up some of it with a very fine bear. What a good boy. I'm also going to finish out these lower walls here. And with the power of editing, it is complete. Now, since it is nighttime and fairly riftly outside, we can't do any work on the exterior of the house, but I'm going to spend the night taking out this roof here, because I want to actually raise our ceiling down here by 1 block. I haven't been really feeling this 2.5 block ceiling, so we're going to raise the roof, as they say, by at least half a block, possibly 1 full block, so we end up with a 3.5 block high roof, or ceiling here. Good morning, folks. It is the first day of October. As you can see, the temperatures have already dropped, and with the magic of editing, the ceiling is now no longer there. There is a lesson to be learned here, which is, in the Stone Age, before you have a copper pickaxe, don't go placing a stack and a quarter of cobblestone that you aren't 100% sure you're going to keep. I was up till 1 a.m. doing this stuff. In the game, not real life. It's like morning here. Now, it is still pretty driftly outside, so I don't want to spend too much time outside our own walls here. But we can certainly start bringing in these pillars and laying the next layer of our walls. Oh, and I almost forgot. We have this temporal gear here now. We should probably go ahead and talk about how to use it. I nearly forgot. So temporal gear is the way that you set your spawn in Vintage Story. And by default, I think it has 20 respawns, which is pretty generous. I upped it to infinite here for this game. And setting your spawn is quite simple. Take your temporal gear in your main hand, not your offhand. And you want to crouch and hold right click until the gear disappears. So now, whenever we die, we will respawn right here on this block. Forever. Until we change it again. Now, where was I? Ah, right. We were going to adjust these columns here, these supports, so that they are within the stone rather than outside of it. Excellent. Now, the next piece is I want to figure out the overhang of the house. And I am thinking that I want the house to actually overhang front and back. And to this side and this side, we'll do something a bit different. What that means is here we want to have a crossbeam that goes about this away and comes out to here, crosses this, and one more over on top of that. And then on the front and the back, we are just the same going to plop them on top of the walls, but I'm not going to have them stick out over here. But I will put one that sticks out right here, like so. And I will run a support beam across here, if I can not bounce off the bed while I'm doing it. And then we'll finish this up. And there we have it, our brand new start of the second floor. And if we have a second floor, that means we need some kind of building material for it. Now, we could use more of this light mud brick, or dark mud brick, or more wood, or more quarter logs, or some rammed earth, or some packed dirt. But, if you'll recall, not too long ago, we went on a bit of a journey to find some green sand, because I want to make a greenhouse. So, let's get cracking on that. And first things first, we're going to get some supports here. We'll start with 3 blocks high, but this may go up to 4 blocks high by the time we're done. And now for the walls themselves. I want to note that I may have gone a bit overboard in the last episode getting all that sand. Because after finally figuring out how much wall we need, I may have gotten literally 5 times more sand than we need. But that's not a problem for us. That's someone else's problem. That's fine. Totally fine. So we're going to be raw daubing it. That's right. We need to make a lot of raw daub. And to do that, we are going to need some sand and some dirt and some grass and some clay. And I guess this isn't a formless recipe. And, oh, look at that. It stacks pretty high. Okay, that's pretty cool. And we're going to make 4 stacks of that. Even this should be more than we need, because as I said, I'm going to do something different for that wall and that wall. This wall might actually require a bit more daub. Alright, now we have the raw daub, which is like plaster or clay. And now we need the wattle for wattle and daub. And luckily, the recipe for wattle is fairly generous. And you get basically a 1-to-1 per stick that you input. I also have a bit of a stash right down here. Yes, here we go. And we're just going to go ahead and put in a lot of wattle right in here. Now, some players prefer to place this in the world and then smack it with the daub and then pick the blocks back up. But since I know that I'm going to be building right here with this material, I'm going to go ahead and just place this live in the final location. And there's that. Now we can take our daub, and I'm going to smack each of these with just 1 set of daub at first, which is 6 pieces of daub. And that will generate this sort of patchy, unfinished looking color right here. And we'll do this all the way around to get our full wall blocks in here. A bit like so. And then what we can do is we can take additional daub, and especially like maybe where there is less stress, like maybe up top, we can right-click again to smooth out the daub a little bit. Maybe that one's got some stress on it. And maybe we'll leave like 1 of each of these will have some kind of additional building stress on it. Like so, and then we can maybe come in here on the 2nd level, and we'll do like 2 of these that'll each have somewhat better daub. And the bottom we might just leave alone, or just put 1 again or 2. Okay, like that. And now we have a somewhat patchy wattle and daub look to our house. It's sort of unfinished, it's Stone Age, it's rough. I like it. I also like dinner. With the walls partly in place, I think it's time for us to settle on some floor material so that we can more easily maneuver around up there and not worry about falling into our house. That includes out here, where I think I'm going to do a different kind of floor outside compared to inside. For the exterior here, I think I'm going to prefer using stone. Not quite like that, but okay. This will give us a roof in this part of the house that is quite high indeed. And we will need to come in here and sort of flesh this out. Maybe I will run this oak the whole way out here for a bit of other contrast. Just a bit like this. Maybe we'll have a bit of an overhang here as well, because we were lazy in our cutting. And then maybe we weren't lazy. What if we instead have this overhang just here a little bit? Maybe with some stair blocks like this. There we go. And now we have a nice little patio that we can do with as we please here. And I think since we have a lot of noisy floors already, like downstairs with this guy here, bounce on the bed, I think we should use something a little tamer upstairs. And to that end, I'm going to say, let's do some dark mud brick slabs here, which will require us dipping into our grass stash once again. Not that kind of grass. And we need a total of 50 blocks for the floor, because each of these is a 5x5, -1 for the ladder here. And we may at some point decide to build a staircase, but in a house this small, a staircase often just doesn't make sense. So for slabs, we are going to take this dirt and clay and arrange it like so. We get 4 per. Let's go ahead and just force them into flat mode. And we'll put them all across here. They do have a bit of a noisier texture underneath, but it's a different texture than what we have on the walls, just slightly. So I think I'm okay with it. And there we go. We once again have a ceiling over our heads, and it feels a lot roomier. We're going to have so much more room for not bonking our heads, and for doing things like hanging lanterns, and putting up some kind of, well, shelving insofar as we have shelves. This is just going to do us wonders, I think. I believe I mentioned that I wanted to do something with the wall right behind me. And that's because we've brought in this pillar here to support the wall right here, which means we can't have our fireplace here. I'm thinking, what if we build instead a rather grand hearth over here that will require removing and moving all of these to elsewhere. Luckily, we have the carry-on mod to do just that. If you don't have the carry-on mod, why don't you? I very highly recommend it, because otherwise you would have to open several of these and pass your items back and forth, and it gets ugly really quickly. So we're going to tear out this window, which means we'll recover this glass and we can use it again later. I'm also going to tear out probably most, if not all, of this wall here. Now, for our fireplace, of course, I think we're going to need to use some more stone, and I am feeling some more granite cobblestone. And I think what we'll do is we're going to have maybe these 3 spots here will be where we have the actual fireplace, and the fire pits will go there. So 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to need to have a bit of a border on either side to keep the fire pits in places from heating the logs too much. And then probably a bit of an apron here. So put these 3 right there. Now out of the back here, I guess we'll do 3 more full blocks like this. And then it probably makes sense to have the chimney itself kind of come up from the side here. So we'll have maybe a bit of a hearth that goes up like this. We'll make some more of these full blocks here. And then maybe we'll have, let's see, some stair blocks here upside down, of course. And we'll have this. And then that gives us room to have maybe a kind of like a mantle right here. Or that way we don't accidentally step into and onto the fires here. And then we'll fill in like that. And we're going to put back these last 2 pieces of mud brick right there and right there. And now we have a fireplace. Sort of. We have the start of a fireplace. We can sneak out here and we can build this up a little bit in the back. And then we're going to put some stair blocks down like here and here to thin it out. And then we're going to have the chimney go up a little more here, probably a little higher than I currently have the blocks for. But with a quick trip downstairs, that can be swiftly remedied. We'll start there. That should be high enough to spring it past our roof, which will be rising up from here later on. Ow. I'm okay. But then I do want to have a second floor hearth right here, which does mean a bit more stone and maybe some chopping out of this wood, since clearly we don't want to be setting the wood on fire. So a bit like that. And we'll just have a single apron right here. A little bit of these guys. And then I think what we'll do is I'm going to have maybe a 1.5 blocks high, just like before. So we'll have this come out like this. A little bit of a mantle right here. And we'll sneak the walls in behind it, maybe with some more of these, just for safety's sake. So a bit like that. Then we're going to reload our daub and our wattle back downstairs. And I'm going to fill in around this up to a certain point here. There we go. That should be a good start. And then we can go ahead and hit this with the daub that we have. We might actually need to make some more, and hopefully I can figure out where to get some more sand. And then of course we're going to patch in some of this here, probably a bit nicer at the top and around the fireplace where there's the stone holding everything up. Maybe some more settling toward the corners of the building. Something a bit like that with maybe a bit more finer work here. There we go, it's a little better. Maybe like that one there. That should do. Now, the eagle-eyed among you might have noticed that I do have a new stash of some clear quartz here. I'm going to pick up 4 of these because we already have 1 quartz glass window. We have at least 3 locations up top here where we're going to want some new windows. So when we got there, and right here. We'll probably have one over here too, but I'll reserve judgment for when the time comes. But let's go ahead and make some more really foggy windows. And we'll plop these in place. And then for our door, of course, we're going to make some wattle gates. Like so. And then we're on to a combination of things. We have the roof to worry about, as well as this wall over here. Now, I want to touch on the roof first because there is something I want to do in particular, which is to show you a couple different options for roofing blocks in the early game. Alright, I'm back with samples. So, roofing options. In the very early game, we acquired some thatch. Thatch isn't my favorite roofing material, but it can be alright. The recipe is fairly simple. It can be time consuming to gather enough to actually make your roof, but let's go ahead and take a look at what this gives us. We have a slanted thatch roof here. If we place this down, it actually has a bit of an animation in the wind, which is kind of nice. And the nice thing is, it's pretty quick to pick up. So not too bad. Now, I've been collecting some slate stones and a lot of clay, as you may have noticed. And we can also turn these into roofs. If we take a bit of clay and slate stones arranged like this, we can get some slanted slate roof. These are very fancy indeed. They look very complete. Almost too complete for our level of tech. And they're actually not too bad to break by hand. Certainly a pickaxe is quicker, but these aren't terrible. Our last roofing option, aside from just slapping some flat blocks down on your roof, which is fine, I guess, but our last option here for actual roof blocks is clay forming your own shingles. These are, as you can see, a little bit involved, but once you get the hang of it, you can make quite a number of them in a very short amount of time. Now, these shingles here are going to generally make 3 or 4 roofing blocks. You can get away with maybe 6 if you use slabs for your roof, maybe like a very slopey, gently angled roof. So it isn't a great use of your time, but if you're looking for a fancy red roof, it's kind of your only option. Well, unless you're in the south in the Copper Age, when you can make an acacia roof. I'm going to make a full set of these, maybe even 2, so we can fire them and take a look at what's on tap with these red roofs. And I'll see you all in a moment. Okay, red roof tiles acquired, time to fire them. Now, while these can be stacked in rather large stacks, you are limited in firing them to 48. Okay, and now we'll come back in about a day, which should give us enough time to start getting our roof on. You see, I already know that I want to use the slate roof here. Reason being is that putting a red roof that's really close on top of the green wattle and daub is just going to look funny because we have 2 pretty strongly opposed colors in terms of complementary colors. So we don't want to put the red and the green next door. However, green with a bit of black, not too shabby. Alright, let's get up here then with some more framing in the form of these beams here. And for these, I think we are not going to have an overhang of the beams. We'll put them right up to the edge here and go straight across. And maybe we won't fall off the end. Now, for the sake of consistency, I think we do want to take apart this part of the wall right here. And I think we do want to put a support beam across. I'm not positive that's how that would be done in real life, but I think it'll look better. I do wonder if a shovel would work better for this. Let's try making a fresh one. Alright, let's try this. Nope, I think that's just as slow as hands. Okay, much better now. And now we can go up here and actually put our real roof on. We're going to come just to the end here first. I'm going to go the whole way across. I do plan on having some overhang on both ends. And in prior versions of the game, we would have a full block of overhang. But in version 1.22, actually I think maybe even prior to this, there is now the ability to turn these into basically half-block wide versions of themselves and have a little bit less overhang, which looks kind of nicer. Alright, look at that roof. It's almost complete. All we need now is a bit of overhang here and to put on the roof ridge. What's that? Why is it the next day? No reason. It does not have anything to do with me running around in the night trying to find some more slate stones because I underestimated how much slate we needed. No, who told you that? It was the pigs, wasn't it? They're liars. In any case, our roof is 13 blocks long. We'd have 14 and 15 with the overhang, but the one over here is blocked by our chimney. So we need 14 roof ridges. And we're going to grab them like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7. There we go. And now we can get up here and just do 1, 2, 3, 13. Up, not quite. Not quite like that, Corazar. There we go. And then we should be able to put this in here and do an end. Here we go. And now you'll see we can add half a block onto that. And we're going to do that for these other 20 here. I didn't realize you actually got back more than you put into it. Okay, that's not a bad deal. But we're going to... Oh, wow. Break our ankles. Holy cow. That was an ankle breaker for sure. Let's try this again. It's a very delicate operation. And I'm just realizing that we made 20 left halves because we put them on the left side. But we could make right halves on this side. However, the ridge just had a single end. So left halves on the left, right halves on the right. There are the left halves, the right halves, the haves, and the have-nots. And we have our roof. Alright, no more rain on our heads. Alright, Corazar, what about this wall, Smarty Pants? Well, for this wall, I was thinking we could do something that I've seen on several different medieval buildings, and that is to build out a tiny little extension, just a little piece of wood sticking off the end here, that maybe has a little extra storage space, or maybe like a bed or something. But yeah, I have seen a lot of little homes, medieval style homes, that have a bit of an extension just off of one or both sides. And it's a very short kind of thing too. So we're going to grab our oak logs and maybe our pine logs for a bit of contrast, and because I'm also somewhat short on oak logs. And I think I also want to support this with a bit of stairs, and maybe even a couple of these as well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bring in the stairs upside down by aiming at the top half of the block. It's upside down, there we go. And then one there. And then one right here. And then we're going to fill in the middle with a bit of cobblestone slab. And then let's see, let's do oak on the outside. and maybe the pine in the center. I think I'm just going to put a little bit of daub right here. Window there. And then we're going to fill in above here, I think, with some more wattle and daub. Scratch that, I have a better idea. What if we have a bit of an accent wall here, and we use some rammed earth, and we put it into our crafting grid to get some other different styles out of it. We can do it again to get a different style. Each one tends to get a little more textured, and you go into kind of like a very bricky style. Okay. And you are back to flat. Okay. So I'm thinking we have one right up here at the very tippy top. If I can reach it, I cannot. So let's try it right there. There we go. And then we can have a little bit more of this textured stuff come in here. Like maybe there, and we'll say there. A little bit more texture down in here. Maybe one over there and there. Then we get into the really deeply textured stuff like this. There we go, a bit of an accent wall. Maybe even we knock out these guys and replace them with the rammed earth. I have a little bit left, so I'm thinking why not? I think that's looking pretty fine. And that is most of our house's exterior done. I have a bit more roof that I want to check on over here. And our roofing here is done. Excellent. Let's pick up all this stuff here. And I'm going to put some roofing up here. These are made in the same way as other shingles are, but they are a much more favorable ratio. Get a lot of roofing per shingle put in. And it doesn't require any additional clay, which is nice. And that, I think, stands out pretty nicely. I could maybe go for some corner roof pieces there instead of these full ones, or maybe even just cut those down to the half blocks. Ah, yes, that is just what the doctor ordered. And having the red roof a little ways away from the green helps it not stand out too much, while still helping to complement the green over here. Then, just to break things up, I'm going to come in here with a little bit of upside down stone stairs. There's a bit of a support there just to help keep that from looking too squared off. And on the back as well. And not so necessary over here. Now, seeing that it is night, we're getting on to night, and it is medium activity outside. Let's close this door. I want to address something that has been bothering me for quite some time, and that is we have a really tall cellar here. We have a 5-block tall cellar. I don't think a 5-meter cellar makes sense. I feel like 3 might be a little cramped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the floor by 1 block all across the area in here and make this generally a 4-block high cellar. And when we're done, this one will also be 4 blocks high. I'll see all of you on the other side of that operation. And once more, with the power of editing and an overnight's worth of work, we now have a significantly shorter cellar down here. It feels just a bit cozier. It also means that our door is even a little bit farther away from the stairs than it was previously. But wait, we're not done yet. We're going to go the whole way today. We're going not whole ham, we're going whole hog. To that end, I want to build an exterior to our home. And that means a bit of a yard, actually. We also have some crops out here that are not quite ready. Ooh, getting ready, though. And it's getting awfully close to freezy time. Let's see if we can speed this growth along just a little bit. The next thing is I'm going to want to build a bit of a perimeter wall. I think what we'll do is we're going to start right here. That will give us a block and change of walking space with a bit of an overhang as well. And we are going to... Ooh, break time. I hear little pigglies. Now, the parents don't like me too terribly much, and that is okay. They are going to go crazy while I am anywhere near them and their babies. The reason I have this over here is that I wanted to try making a little bit of a piglet sorter using some slabs and seeing if we can maybe convince the piglets to get over into that area while leaving the parents over in their pen. Let's try that. All right, piggies, can you get over there? Oh, you can. Oh, good little piggies. Now, just like always with pigs, this could hurt. This could indeed hurt just a little bit. I'm going to try to reach over there with these dirt blocks. Oh my. And we're... Ooh, this is going to hurt a lot. Oh boy. Yep, they are raving mad, but now we have 2 piglets over here. I'm going to build a little bit of a wall around them with some fences or some wattle. Keep them safe. Alright, bit of wattle fence over here. And can we see if these are boy pig and girl pigs yet? Male and female. Oh, excellent. Now these guys are a bit in danger over here because there could potentially be lightning, although this time of year I find that somewhat unlikely. Alright, back to the building. Now the idea here is that aside from a certain irregularity that I want to insert here, there's going to be one of these, followed by 5 blocks of empty space, and then another one of these guys here. And that will be true most of the way around here, until we get to this section right over here, which I have some special plans for. I'm going to get to it over the next couple of days, and I will show you some progress along the way. And like that, after only an entire in-game month of work, our house is largely complete. Now, there are some numerous kinds of enhancements we could make to this, like putting up some fences around here, some decorations, maybe plant some tree seedlings, or even just the seeds themselves. But this is the, for now, final house. I really enjoy how it came out. I'm liking the green wattle and daub, and I actually didn't even use a single piece of the fully daubed up wattle, so I think it works out really well. I like the texture. I don't think we even need any of the smooth ones. And then we have our little extension over here, which I think is just wonderful, very kind of Tudor style, with a different color roof. And when you look at it from this side, you can't see the green. So the red and green don't clash very much. In fact, at all. They actually do a good job complementing each other because the red is separated and it's kind of in a small amount over here. We have our pine-based quarter log extension here, where I do fully plan on fleshing out this porch or this balcony here at some point. We have an entrance. Let's take a look from the outside. This is our house's entrance. We have a slightly raised walkway here, and we fit some stairs in over there. I would have liked to put stairs in the whole way around here, but I would have needed like more than twice as much granite stones, or twice as many granite stones. So I went for the slabs, and we do have the dirt showing, but I'm okay with that. Around the side, we have our chimney over here. That leads to a second-story smaller fireplace for warmth, and we have some more of the green wattle and daub. All along the sides, we have these up-and-down staircases holding up the dirt, the load-bearing dirt. And actually, the load-bearing dirt is actually held in place by the wattle sitting right here. And I know that enemies can, like, shoot through here, but that's actually going to be kind of unusual because the Bowtorn don't like to shoot you when you are too close. So maybe one could snipe us if we're standing right there and he has really good aim, but I'm not super worried about that. Coming around the back of the house, we have the overhang in the back, which I think is working out really well. I'm really enjoying how that came out. And then we have our external rear staircase that comes up here and up to our back door here, as well as I added a little external door from our cellar right under here. So now we have an entrance here, and then we have a walkway out here. This was the original exit we used to have. And I also put one over here so we can walk the whole way around underneath. The interior here didn't really change much, so let's take a look upstairs. Here is our final living space, minus some decorations, and maybe with some more clutter than I intended at the moment. We have our kitchen area over here, we have our hearth over here, and then we have our nice, cozy living space. I think this would be a great space to just decorate with random knickknacks and things, and fill up some of the area here to maybe remove some of the noisiness of the walls and floor. Heading upstairs, we have our second story that is somewhat larger, actually significantly larger than the downstairs because of the pop-out here. And I haven't decided what I want to do up here yet. I might put this into 2 rooms later. I also may add some decoration, like maybe a beam across the top here and a supporting beam up from the center, once I get enough oak. We have a little temporary bed here with some lights. We have our pop-out window over here. I think this is pretty cool. And then, of course, our balcony where we can come out in the morning and survey the land and see what kinds of creatures are waiting for us. All right, and heading back down below, we can exit our home from the front and get right down into sort of the basement / outer area where everything drops down by 1 level. And over here, let's just say I have some plans for what we're going to do over here. And I do want to cover up some of this edge work here. I might bring in some more cobblestone stairs later once we get some more materials. I might even want to sort of like, I don't know, bend some of it under here to sort of show that this is being supported. But under here, yes, trust me, I do have some plans. As well as back here, we have a walkway back to the rear, of course. And then coming back around the front, You'll have to excuse this area. This is kind of a temporary separation cell for the piglets, because these are the Generation 0 parents. We do have a male and female, and they are going to Crusader Kings their way into the next generation of piglets. It's Generation 2, and we'll move them, well, we'll move their babies back over here when the time is right. I did bump down the floor in here because these guys were getting kind of dangerously close to being able to hop their way out. In fact, I might need to deal with that in a minute here. They're able to get up there and onto the wall there. That could be a problem. And then we have our Bun-Buns safe and sound down here. Ooh, with 2 little leverets. Very cool. Oop, the Generation 2. And then, of course, back around to the rear basement chamber, where we did lose our painting area, but since we have... This is low fertility. Let's pop this out and replace this with some more of the packed dirt. As I was saying, since we have some glacier ice, we can go ahead and pop that in here. It might not melt since it is winter, but I guess we'll find out. And lastly, a tour of the grounds. We have this little sort of, I don't know, like a sunlight down here into the basement stairs. And I just thought this was kind of a neat touch. So I kept it. We have our raised walkway here from both sides. We can walk the whole way around our house in the relative safety of our yard, which is difficult for monsters to scale. In fact, nearly impossible except for the staircase here. And I do have plans to remedy that as well, just not today. We have here a mostly finished but uncovered clay firing area. And I think maybe in the next episode or two, we will get to finishing this up and covering it up. And then up here, oh, the raised platform. We will have an episode, if not the next one, then the one after, where we spend some time decorating. And to be truthful, the decoration of this area isn't really going to come into its own until spring. Specifically, about 10 to 15 days after spring really hits. And you'll see why once we get around to actually decorating it. But it also has to do with the planned decorations underneath, and its functionality. And naturally, a medium temporal storm is approaching. Why wouldn't it? Anyway, folks, as the sun is nearly setting now that it's afternoon, it is time for me to wrap this episode and get moving to the next one. I hope you enjoyed this rather bombastic and enormous home build that took me about 6 hours to actually complete. It has been a crazy wild ride. So I hope you enjoy the result of our Stone Age tools only house. Now, there are some improvements we could make in the Stone Age technically. We could go and buy some very fancy doors from the furniture salesman, but I wanted to keep it to just the things that we can craft ourselves, minus the lantern that we did find in a ruin. In the next episode, we are going to tackle what to do about winter. Both some prep for winter, as well as what you can do in winter to pass the time, and how to conserve your food. Winter is sometimes seen as a not very exciting time in Vintage Story, and that is true, I think, in maybe the first year or so. There are some things you can do to jazz things up and have a good time. And also, importantly, be productive. As I mentioned before, you always want to have something to do in Vintage Story. There's always a task to be done, always something to gather, always something to build, always something else to prepare for. But that's going to do it, folks. The names you see scrolling by belong to the awesome folks who have decided to support the channel by subscribing as channel members. If you too would like to see your name in the credits, get early access to videos, and maybe even hear me butcher your name in the following portion, then check out what's on tap over at the channel memberships. The following folks have gone the extra mile to support the channel by subscribing at the Seraph tier. Their names are Elizabeth Woolley, Inger Raymond, Joshua Saruda, Linda Harris, Lucky's Mom, Mad Lord Hubris, Oak Tree, Servus, Smiley Builds, Snow Silver, Sue Wallace, Tyluna, and Wade Parker. As always, my name has been Corazar. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.